Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for another installment of SBIFF Film Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about the short film Ghost of the Towers. So just to get things started, let's watch a quick clip and then we'll have our conversation with the filmmakers.
No, no lo vimos.
At the tip of a continent, there is a land of adventure. A land of unimaginable beauty.
You see wildlife everywhere here.
In just a couple of kilometers, you have glaciers, mountains, lakes, rivers, everything.
Está saliendo de una porción de bosque ahí.
Ahí nomás.
I'm looking it through a 600mm lens, and I actually had to pull away and be like, how close is this actually happening?
I don't know how to explain that. It's just something wow.
Once you come here, you just can't stop coming back.
Hi, so welcome to Michael Blake, director and producer, and director of photography, Peter Trow. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. Can you start off by giving us a bit of background about when the idea of documenting this journey to photograph the pumas, when the idea for this story began and how the project sort of came together?
It started in 2018, I believe around January. The idea for the brand to put the story together was the ultimate goal to just really try to inspire people to get outside at the end of the day and share the experiences of several people getting together that may or may not have known each other, and then really see what happens. So that was the origin, rough timeline there.
Yeah. So then what did that development process sort of look like, and when did you bring Peter in, and how did assembling the crew sort of go with this project?
Peter was the first person actually that I talked to about the project to let him know that this was coming, and I needed somebody that I knew could juggle many hats and DP, camera operate, and carry his own gear, really, because we were going to run with a really lean crew. So he and I worked together on assembling that same type of minded person, a crew really, that could travel really light, literally, and move for multiple days with the ridiculous hours. And so we started just going through people we knew and looked at what the realities were for production days, timing expectations, editing, and the whole process, and to just hit the road. So the pre-production was like 9 months-ish, but that was just, It was a lot of just approvals and conversations and goals and that kind of thing. You know, depending on the team you're working with, it can obviously go small or big as far as approval process goes. And so once we got that going, then it was very fast, very, very fast. We went out and shot, well, the entire production took 8 days. From start to finish. We shot the whole film in 8 days, and we had, each day was 2 8-hour shifts a day, and we slept for 4 hours, and we'd go out for 8 hours, and we'd sleep for 4 hours, and we did that for 8 days in a row. To pull it off.
Wow. So 9 months of pre-production planning and then all for that 8 days of filming. You know, I think, it's interesting how in the film, the voiceover early on talks quite a bit about the different perils of this trek. And it seemed to me that maybe some of the issues with the terrain or the weather, some of those potential setbacks that the photography crew encountered maybe mirrored some of what your crew might have experienced in actually documenting their journey. Can you tell us a bit about, how you document someone who's going through these difficult physical trials while yourself, experiencing some of that as well?
Yeah, I'll answer that to some degree, but it'd be fun to hear what Peter thinks too, because obviously two different perspectives. Uh, it, it, this is kind of an inside joke for Peter and the crew and I, is I actually hope for really rough weather and really crazy circumstances because it really amplifies the story. It puts you into positions you wouldn't otherwise be ready for. So Patagonia is exactly the kind of place to go for lots of things that are unexpected to hit you. So the weather and working with the crew and the talent and I should call the expedition crew, it worked well because we all had a common goal that we really were aligned on well in advance, that we had talked about a lot. But on a day-to-day basis, I mean, you're talking like extremely high winds and sudden torrential downpours and walking around the corner. For our first encounter with the pumas, for example, some people were walking around a mountain this way, very small peak, and then some people were like, okay, well, we think he's over there, but let's go this way just in case. So two people walked around there, and I don't know, Peter, if you remember that, but they came within like 10 yards of the puma just right off the bat on like the first or second day. And that was the team that didn't have the camera. So the other team that had the camera, so we missed those first shots. Peter, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'd say that, when you're trying to follow somebody that's taking pictures in the outdoors and you're actually in the outdoors yourself and you're carrying quite a bit of gear and running down, through these valleys and trying to keep up with this amazing photographer, Keith Lutensky, and who's always on the move. And it was quite a feat and extremely difficult project because we had to be on all day long. We were there for such a short time, we didn't want to miss any moments. And so we didn't get much rest. And we had to be out in very difficult conditions and work really hard to capture the shots that you see in the film. And yeah, very challenging.
So, yeah, I would imagine you probably had quite a bit of footage through this as well, because the terrain is just stunning, and it's not just the pumas that are out. There's all sorts of, the whole hierarchy of the food chain is out there.
Yes.
So what was that like going through all that footage? How much footage did you have, and was it a challenge to kind of decide who got to, what of all that natural beauty made it into this 27-minute film? What was that like?
It was really hard. I was the editor as well. So, and Michael was with me through the process. And so we were going through the footage, and it was really difficult to cut the clips because there's so much beautiful footage and so much we wanted to show, but we obviously had to keep it into a constrained time. And that was always a challenge. And we're going back and forth, like, what about this? Did we really miss this shot? Later on, it's like, it was, we're always finding these little nuggets in there that we really wanted to have in the video, and we tried to find a place for it. But we ended up, I think I have 75 terabytes of footage for this 20-minute video. So
that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, we're pretty loaded. And it was all shot, in 5K and 8K on Red. Wow. And all the helicopter footage was shot in 8K on Red Epic, and everything else was on the Red Gemini, shot in 5K. So it ended up, after transcoding all the footage, ended up being quite a heavy load.
And to capture all those moments, we shot with 4 cameras. We had 3 on the ground and 1 in the air. And so we just timed the days and we distributed the roles, and we had 2 crews, 2 units going out at like all the time, essentially. And so you get the dawn, the dusk, and you'd have every single potential opportunity. There'd be cameras on the ground. And then we planned the aerial cinematography throughout the process.
Wow. So how many people total then in your across those 2 crews?
15.
15.
Yeah.
Including the talent. So including.
Okay. Oh, including, so the explorers themselves were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's pretty lean crew.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, it was 10. That was that. We went and we traveled with 10 people, and it was super lean, and that's why it's just a extraordinarily short period of time, which also helped, I think, the intensity of the situation for the crew, or for the expedition crew. They bonded really fast, really fast, and the trackers were amazing, absolutely amazing, extremely talented people that have been doing it for many years, and they were just angels to work with. They were so smooth and were very open to our whole process. So it was couldn't have actually asked for a better situation.
Yeah, you know, that kind of leads me to something I really liked in the film, that I think was mentioned or sort of alluded to twice, or someone said that there's something about seeing a puma in their territory versus in our territory. And I feel like that was a pretty cohesive thread through the film, and maybe speaks a bit to your experiences there, being there and capturing that as well. Could you talk a bit about that and tell us, I mean, I'm curious too, if I know pumas have this reputation of being these quiet stalker types. So was there any interaction with nature, with you being in their territory? Can you tell us a bit about that and what that was like for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, just overall, it was a dream come true that I'd not quite dreamed about. My family and I are huge outdoor folks, and all the people that were there on the ground are as well. So I think everybody was just in complete awe, not only of the geography and the landscape and the overall wildlife, but seeing the animals for the first time, something that big, that close. It was just out of this world. And at the same time, I'm seriously like hyper focused on like what shots we're trying to get, right? And you know, it was next level. And so I'm totally honored to have been that close to the animals. There was one moment where, and I was actually on a different unit, Peter, you probably recall this, where one of the guys was on the ground kneeling low, and a puma was walking towards him. And when you're down low and small, that's when there's a higher potential for an interaction, an encounter. And so they told him, just, you know, get up quick, and they had him stand up, and it was good, like 15 feet, maybe 20 feet. I think that was probably the closest we got to the animals. And It was more of like, I'm checking you out. I'm going to go over here now. Thanks for standing up. I don't want to eat you. So
You're not fit.
Yeah.
That's incredible. This is funny, and obviously I know the answer, but the first thing, like, maybe it's like an inner child question or something popped in my head where I wondered, did you get to pet him? Which is such a ridiculous question, right? But being that close to them, I mean, as a cat lover, that's just, yeah, I'm envious of that experience in a way, but at the same time, I'm glad, you know, to not have a big cat stalking me.
I had many years ago, I had a friend take me to a wildlife sanctuary in Arkansas, and they had wildcats, mountain lions, big cats, all different types. Excuse me. And I actually got to pet one, a mountain lion, sleeping. It was a really mellow cat. And a side note, they have super, super oily and heavy, dense fur on the outside. You could it feels like you could hit it with a hammer, and then under it is really fluffy, amazingly soft fur. So there you go.
So you have pet one.
Yeah, not there though. Excuse me.
In our environment, you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. So having done this film with, of course, the film isn't entirely about the puma, but they are sort of the centerpiece of this ecosystem that you go into. Has your advocacy for that animal been affected at all, or has your awareness of it changed after going through this experience?
Absolutely, it's changed. We, those of us that had not been involved and or had any experience with the animals before, I know walked away with a massive appreciation and also, like I said, an awe-inspired perspective, like how delicate their existence is, even in such a lively environment for them. And it's been really nice to be able to share that experience with people that are interested in the outdoors and also wildlife. And so advocacy for it, absolutely. Any time I get a chance to have a conversation with people that do this stuff for a living, supporting sustainable tourism and balancing that with supporting the wildlife, it's always a great opportunity.
Yeah. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really brought to attention, like, these animals, they were not interested in us at all, which was so fascinating to me, because here we're so fearful of these animals. And of course, they're being pushed out of their environment and into ours. And so, like Christian, the tracker said, very interesting being in their environment. And you feel very small but you take it all in and watch these creatures actually exist and how they operate, and realize that they're just they're living their life, and we have ours. But unfortunately, in this area, a lot of areas in the United States, our systems have kind of crashed together, and we're having to overlap, and people are not aware of these creatures, and they're not aware on how to deal with them. So the quickest thing is that they're a threat, and we need to remove them immediately. So it's fair, it's unfortunate, but it was very mind-opening to be able to have that experience and witness these creatures in their natural environment.
Yeah. I'm curious too, Michael described you as such a technical camera nerd before we started the call. And so, bringing your knowledge of your technical knowledge to this environment, was there a certain approach or goal or specific, what was kind of maybe fueling your approach with capturing these images and being able to bring this environment, this landscape to an audience? Was there something, tell us about your process and your approach with that.
I think number one, we didn't know if we were going to capture these creatures. We had no idea. There's no guarantee. So our number one approach was to film the environment and to kind of capture the outdoors and the amazing beauty of this spectacular area, and to do that and in the best way possible, and then capture our events along the way, whether it has to do with puma or foxes or all the wildlife there, where there's so much wildlife. So there was a lot to film. So it was very exciting and a lot of fun. So that was our original process, just to get these people out in nature and film them filming these other creatures. So we were, following the photographers. And through that process, we were able to actually build up this story and find the pumas with these amazing, we did have these amazing trackers that were helping us. And so we would jump very quickly when we got a call that they might be in a certain area and run over there with all our gear. And we got very, very fortunate that we had some wonderful experiences with those animals. And I think we did a fairly decent job of capturing the environment itself. And that, for me, that I really enjoy that. And that was a big, a really wonderful experience for me, just to see the environment and be able to capture it on film.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think such a nice message in the film too, or such a nice element that's in there is it's not just about the pumas themselves or about the Torres del Paine National Forest. It's about man in balance with nature and kind of our place in that as well. Can you talk a bit about that message and sort of what you're hoping audiences will really glean from the film related to that?
Yeah, Michael did an amazing job of bringing all those elements together. And I think after, we kind of built the foundation of the script after we were there. And so Michael, that process was fascinating. And why don't you tell them how that came about, because it really came together well.
Yeah, well, this is just another point to Peter, and he was the first person to talk about it because I knew he had the capacity to think creatively about the entire story we hope to tell, the like pie in the sky, the best case scenario, right, all the way down to worst case scenario, and we had that process laid out. So I hope I'm answering your question. I'm not going off track here.
No.
So
go off track.
when we were planning, we knew that, like he said, we could literally end up empty-handed and have amazing footage. So we planned on, regardless, is making sure we were connecting everybody to the audience, to a sense of that fine balance of humanity and nature, right? Reminding people how small and insignificant we are in this just massively beautiful environment that we were capturing. And then two, the best case scenario was to actually have an interaction with the animals and the humans, in this case, Keith Lazinski, Celeste, and Eduardo. And we got it. And we hoped that, for example, the number one shot that I hoped that we wanted to set up, if we could, or at least put ourselves in the position to capture, was behind him and then see the mountain lion in front of him. So actually seeing what he's seeing. And we did it a couple times, which is ridiculous that we actually pulled it off. And so that was that, like I said, it all worked out just right, from weather to timing to the days to like no injuries and like the whole bit. So it is definitely a lifetime memory, the whole process.
Yeah, that shot that you ended up with too is perfect, because if I remember it right, the puma's just sitting there, I think looking towards the camera, or he's just sitting there like he knows it knows what's going on.
Yeah, like Peter said, they're not really that interested, and they're very, while there is tourism down there, people see them pretty often. They're definitely like, nah, I'm out of here. So usually if you see them, it's very easy to scare them away, very easy. And that was, we were using, he had an 800 millimeter lens, and we filmed with a 50 to 1000 millimeter lens, which is a gigantic cinema Canon lens that was made custom for another filmmaker many years ago. And that allowed us to get those insane shots where you're like essentially wide at 50 and then zooming way, 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 way in. And so combination of Peter's preparation, understanding the creative process, understanding what the dream creative direction could potentially be for, of course, a documentary situation, it worked out. And being able to share that beauty, the experience of Keith, Eduardo, and Celeste really close with just absolutely razor crisp, beautiful cinematography it worked. And so we're stoked.
Yeah. Last thing I kind of wanted to ask about was your choice with the voiceover, actually, which is lovely and so well done. And I was looking at the credits to figure out what actor had done this, and it just says PhD student. Can you tell us a bit about your voiceover narrator, and if that was always your plan to use that, or if that was something that just sort of came about in post-production?
It was. I had a very specific thing in mind. I wanted a woman from the region talking, and I wanted an expert in the field. She's a archaeologist and has many years working, and I was put in touch with her from a mutual friend from UCSB who's a professor. I did phone interviews with a couple people, and once I heard her voice, She had never done it before, never done VO before, never worked with film production at all. I just heard her voice and I thought, this is it, like done, game over. Just a very strong and confident sound of that local voice, and the expertise of being able to speak to the region and the ecosystem and all the points that we were discussing in the VO was extremely important. And also the idea was I wanted to have Mother Nature speaking. That was the sense that I wanted to have people walk away with. So I hope that that's what people somewhat took away from.
Yeah.
And
It was incredible.
Her name is Carola Flores. So she's a archaeologist in Chile. And
yeah, she was excellent. I genuinely thought it was someone famous and was trying to IMD. She did such a great job.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, it's lovely. So is there any new projects or things that you folks are working on that we can keep an eye out for? What else is in the canon for you?
Nothing that we can talk about yet. So we do have little things that we're working on, but we're hoping to come up with something in the next year or so and be able to collaborate again. So we'll keep you posted, and if it turns out right, then we can cross our fingers and submit to again. So
that'd be great. And then I've kind of made a habit of asking everyone this, but what would you say is the wisdom that you gained from this project, or what you would pass on? What advice would you pass on for filmmakers looking to do something similar?
And Peter, do you have any?
Yeah, be patient.
Patience.
And it was, this project was by no means easy. It was a lot of work. We didn't sleep the entire time we were there. Pretty much, I didn't, at least, because like Michael said, I was juggling a lot of hats. So I was doing the DIT, I was doing, making sure everything was working properly, camera prep, and everything else. And so not a lot of sleep. And when we got back, we had a lot of content to go through, and it took a while for us to narrow things down. And it at times it was frustrating, and but patience and determination, and knowing that we had something that could really was pretty spectacular, really. And that kept us going. And so I think just believing in the project that you're doing and sticking to it.
Awesome.
Mine is pretty quick. I think the thing that really tied it all together was selecting the right crew and cast, of course. Finding people that really, and I don't, everybody says passionate, but really believed in doing something that could be a complete failure, right? And being okay with that, and understanding that going into a situation, usually it's not going to turn out exactly the way you thought. And so having a wide range of expectations, I think is extremely important. And also knowing that once you get into post, that's when the magic can happen. So, and prepare for that as well. So we made sure we had the right content to adjust and pivot as the cinematography was complete.
And nothing in the film was forced, which was nice. So we went into the filming process without forcing anything. We weren't trying to. We had shots that we wanted to achieve, and we were fortunately able to. But it wasn't a huge priority. We were able to capture everything we needed to make a wonderful film, and an editing process as well. In post, we were able to flow through the process without forcing, trying to put together a preconceived image. It was being built on the go. And I think that's really, you can feel it in the film, this kind of smooth flow of things. And that's something I would say to other filmmakers too, is just to go with the flow, and have a good idea, a good concept, but let it unfold.
Right.
Expect
Awesome.
the unexpected, like a broken helicopter.
And, yeah, lots of things.
Yikes. Well, that's perfect. Thank you guys so much for being here and sharing the film with us. It's up on YouTube if anyone watching still needs to check it out. And we'll be here next week with another SBIFF film talk. So
Thank you, Audrey, very much.
thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Cheers. Have a good evening.
Great.